This is a fight that boxing fans across the world have been waiting for such a long time. It's certainly true that you may not have expected us to cover this one, but we often have to look outside the heavyweight division for some of the best fights in boxing history. Right now, we're talking about a fight that has the entire fight world completely up in arms. This is a fight causing immense shock amongst fight fans across the world. In fact, whoever thought we would see the day when this boxing legend fought again in the ring? But who are we actually talking about? That's right, you guessed it, Manny Pacquiao, the legend himself. Some of you may be shocked to hear that the Pac-Man is indeed due to enter the ring once more. Didn't he retire already? Well, apparently not. The recent announcement that Manny Pacquiao challenges WBC and IBF welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. in Las Vegas has filled the boxing community with utter excitement. And rightly so. Manny Pacquiao is arguably one of the greatest boxers of all time. But how exactly does this fight go? Well, it's true that Pacquiao is now 42 years old and hasn't stepped inside the ring since 2019. But does this take anything away from his insane boxing ability? Just take a look at the incredible record of this boxer. This is a man who has 71 fights under his belt, 62 wins, and 39 by devastating knockout. Out of these 71 fights, the Pac-Man has only 2 draws and 7 losses. This is a truly and undoubtedly a spectacular boxing career record.
How many more? Down he goes, and Dracula got hit with a straight punch. And he got hit with another one and another one. Now, and down he goes now. Steady combinations and elevators. Quick drop down the middle by Marquez as he did on a quick left hook there. And he fires the straight left hand.
Just take a look at Manny here. Many of you are already all too familiar with the speed, agility, boxing intelligence, and power of this man. The standard of technique of this seasoned welterweight is almost beyond belief. See the footwork on this guy? And as if this wasn't enough, did you know that Manny Pacquiao has a well-documented career in Filipino politics? We don't know about you, but putting this guy in charge should certainly be enough to earn the national respect of any country. Look at the way Pacquiao moves here. This is a man who seems to have a sixth sense for boxing, moving intuitively around the ring and timing his opponent's next move with absolute perfection. Manny Pacquiao has been a truly great fighter in the boxing world, and he is currently the only boxer in history to have won 12 major world titles in 8 different weight divisions. Can you imagine that? 8 different weight divisions? But how does this match up against Errol Spence Jr.? Well, Spence has 27 fights under his belt with 27 wins and 21 by annihilating knockout. For a man of 31 years, that is certainly another incredible boxing record, and it is unanimously agreed amongst the fight community that this is a boxer to be well in his prime right now. In fact, Spence is one of the best in the welterweight division at the moment. But what exactly is on the table for this one? Well, the winner of this fight will achieve Spence's WBC and IBF welterweight titles. That is not something to overlook. The trouble is, as many have pointed out, age can often make a huge difference in this sport, and Errol Spence is an absolutely deadly opponent in the ring. The southpaw welterweight has proved his worth time and time again against such insane boxers as Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, and Kell Brook. I mean, does anyone remember any of these?
The last few minutes, Kell Brook's hurt here, and he's down in the 10th round.
He has a wounded prey and he knows it. And Spence puts him back down.
And he has got to be careful to Spence. But now Spence going to work and he drops Bundu. And this one could be over.
It's no wonder they call him the Truth. When this guy gets in the ring, he delivers none other than the unadulterated and brutal truth of the sport of boxing. For a man of 69 kilos, it is truly impressive how much power he can generate with simple 1-2 combination. The jabs here are insane and pave the way perfectly for a lightning left hook, which rarely misses. Unlike some of our favorite heavyweights, Spence is able to move like a butterfly on steroids, which means you better not blink during the fight if you don't want to miss the deciding punches. And yet, just look at the sheer power of this guy. That is something Spence does have in common with some of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division. Some of these shots are enough to bring a giant tree come crashing down to the canvas. Another phenomenon is the sheer accuracy of these punches. Spence is like a radar missile that locks on and rarely misses its target. Each combination is almost perfect in its efficiency and devastating power. This is clearly a perfectly calculated man with a perfectly calculated plan in the ring. I sure wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of Errol Spence Jr., that's for sure. So how does Pacquiao feel about his chances against this young and prime contender? Well, at a recent news conference, Pacquiao admitted he is taking a significant risk in returning against one of the top active fighters in boxing. Pacquiao said he could have picked a much easier fight compared to Errol Spence for his comeback bout, but chose to take on the unbeaten 147-pound champion because I want to give a good fight to the fans. I want a real fight. Credit to the Pac-Man, that's exactly what the fight world wants. The 31-year-old Spence will be in the ring for only the second time since October 2019, when he survived a single-car crash in which he was ejected from his Ferrari 488 Spider. He returned in December in his native Dallas area with a unanimous decision over Danny Garcia. Spence is 3.5 inches taller than Pacquiao, and his frame was significantly larger during their ceremonial face-off. I definitely have the ability to finish him, Spence said, but for me, it's about winning the fight. Those are indeed wise words from Spence, but could Manny Pacquiao's experience prove just a bit too much for our younger contender? Of course, we need look no further for a reminder of just how much a legend Pacquiao is than this unforgettable fight of the century against Floyd Mayweather himself. This was indeed one of the greatest fights of all time, and many agree it was close to going either way. When Pacquiao has this level of elite experience, is it really possible that Spence could get the better of him? And if Pacquiao wins this one, there is already talk of his next fight being against unbeaten WBO welterweight king Terence Crawford, who has mooted putting himself in the exact same position Spence now occupies, taking on one of the division's elder statesmen and biggest ever names in a legacy-defining clash of the titans. Thus far, we haven't had Crawford versus Pacquiao or Crawford versus Spence, but fans will likely want to see the winner take on one or the other in the next logical super fight. If Pacquiao loses to Spence, it's tough to imagine him going through another 12-week camp. But if he manages to win, a Spence-Crawford 1-2 before retiring would cement him as one of the sport's most intrepid warriors. And what about Conor McGregor? We know fight fans across the world are dying to hear more about the prospect of these two going toe-to-toe in the ring. And while it's true that it will be tough for Pacquiao to land another elite fight before he retires if he is beaten by Spence, there's always a money-spinning crossover attraction. Indeed, these fights with Conor McGregor always have one thing in common: they generate a huge amount of revenue for all those involved. McGregor's surprising loss in his Octagon rematch versus Dustin Poirier in January poured cold water on talks to return to boxing for a bout with Pacquiao after losing to Floyd Mayweather Jr. in 2017. However, if the Irishman wins in another rematch with Poirier and Pacquiao loses to Spence, the trash-talking to build to the sideshow could resume. And while many do not approve of the idea, it would certainly make a huge amount of money. Strangely enough, this could actually be more positive for the world than people realize. Let's not forget that Pacquiao has generously donated large parts of his career earnings to the people of the Philippines in the past and wishes to continue this, especially targeting the damage caused by the recent pandemic. I guess that's the benefit of having a humanitarian-minded senator win some of the most lucrative fights on record. But what do you think? Does Errol Spence Jr. have what it takes to overcome the legendary Manny Pacquiao? Will age get the better of our legacy pound-for-pound champion, or is the world's favorite Pac-Man simply far too experienced for Spence to really stand a chance? Let us know in the comments section how you see this one going. If you know anything about boxing, make sure you check out the link in the description below for another super fight breakdown. You will not want to miss this one. Lastly, don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon for future updates to our videos. We will shortly be announcing some truly exciting new updates exclusively for our subscribers and esteemed members of the Boxing Nation.